From Faith Forward Media, this is Healthcare Musings. I'm Dr. Hashem Hasabala. Welcome to Healthcare Musings, everybody. Very happy to have you with me today. A very common theme on Healthcare Musings is artificial intelligence and how it intersects with healthcare. And I talked about it with Dr. Safwan Hanabi, who is a radiologist, and that's the first target. They say, oh, AI will get rid of all the radiology jobs, and we talked about that. Then I had a non-doctor, Ayman Abdelminam, who is in the AI space, talk to me about becoming a 10x doctor with artificial intelligence. And in that conversation, he mentioned LLMs being, what if you had an LLM who was a virtual Hisham, right, and can make end-of-life decisions for you? And that, as a physician, a critical care physician, that blew me away. And I told them, I don't know that I'd be comfortable with that, really. As a critical care doctor, taking care of someone, almost all, it's best practice. And sometimes we should always do this, is to make sure that we identify a surrogate decision maker for a patient who is admitted to the intensive care unit, because frequently they no longer, due to their illness, no longer can make medical decisions for themselves. So it's important to identify that surrogate decision maker. And every state, my state included, has kind of a hierarchy of who, if there isn't a medical power of attorney, who is that surrogate decision maker? And nowhere in that list is an LLM. Nowhere. And so in researching this topic, that came up, my guest today, Dr. Mohammed Aurangzeb Ahmed, who is affiliate assistant professor of computer science at the University of Washington, Bothell, and a resident fellow at the Harborview Medical Center, whose research is in this space. And I had to have him on the show. So welcome, Dr. Ahmed. So happy to have you on Healthcare Musings.
Excellent. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're so happy to have you. So why don't we begin by you just telling us what kind of the gist of your research, and then we'll go specifically in the thing that really intrigued me is about end-of-life decisions with respect to LLMs and artificial intelligence, please.
Sure. So I'm in the surgery department at Harborview Medical Center, so specifically in the trauma ICU department. So my research is focused on patients who are extremely sick. So in a lot of cases, they've had accidents, so they end up in the trauma ICU. And I focus on building AI and machine learning models to predict who is going to recover, how long will it take to recover. And more importantly, I would say, is what are the factors behind certain patients, all other factors being equal, recovering earlier as compared to others? So the science behind this is not very well understood. So we are looking at different types of biomarkers to figure out what are the biological factors which may be contributing to somebody recovering earlier as compared to not recovering at all. So that has led to different directions. Another area of research, which is somewhat outside of my main academic work, is around simulation modeling. So basically modeling people's personalities, and my interest in AI surrogates actually stems from that. So as a related note, I've been running a simulation of my deceased dad for the last 10 years. And not for me, myself, but for my kids. And so the intersection of these two interests just led me to this question that in the end-of-life space, and these kind of decisions can be very emotionally taxing. Can we use AI, specifically large language models, to help us make decisions, at the very minimum, inform those decisions? So
that's actually fascinating. So if say someone comes in, because these not frequently come in my ICU with bad trauma, if someone is predicted to not do well or not recover at all, what are the implications of that prediction model? If an AI model says this person, based on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is predicted not to recover, what are the implications for the care team?
So in a resource-constrained environment, these can be used to help us make decisions. So in an everyday critical care settings, I would say that think of these as just another data point, may not be as important. But in scenarios where the resources are stretched, so think about the earlier days of COVID, where a large number of patients are showing up, and it's just not possible for the critical care team to prioritize everybody at the same time. So they have to make judgment, and these types of models, which can, let's say, put a probability around somebody's survival. We can think of these as just adding another data point and helping the critical care team, the physicians, the nurses, to make informed decisions regarding who to prioritize.
I see. So it's not like it's prescriptive where if it's this score, that's it, we're going to withdraw care. It's just another data point.
Correct. And it is extremely important to emphasize that point, that it is just another data point that we are using, because at least at this point in time, AI and machine learning models are not advanced enough that they would beat humans, at least in this particular setting. There are just too many factors, and too many ways to handle the situation that we are just not there yet.
I see. So how, and going back to the now simulating your deceased father, right? May God rest his soul. How are you training the LLM on your father?
So I created the first version of this model almost 10 years ago. So this is way before large language models were a thing. So I had to use like more classical natural language processing models. It took me more than 6 months to just build that model. Um, and the data that I used was just a lot of these were conversations that I recorded with my dad. So with the express purpose was not that, one day I'll create a simulation. It was more like for me to remember. So I was in grad school at that time. So, later I'll just revisit these conversations. And then there were letters and other artifacts that I had collected over the years that when I finally sat down to build the model, that's what I used.
Oh, wow. So, and now fast forward to today, where the large language models are much more sophisticated. How would I upload videos that I take of myself? Would I upload writings of myself? Would I upload, I mean, how would I train if I wanted to make a virtual me? How would I do that today?
Yeah, so I would say it's significantly much more easier to build these models as compared to 10 years ago. So pretty much everything that you described would be added to that. If you want to make it a curated list, that would be another route. Or let's say you want certain people to use it instead of, let's say, a journal model, then there are certain questions that you would think that, if my kids or my grandkids or my spouse, they're likely to ask these questions, or they should definitely know about these things. So you would emphasize and just add as much data as possible.
Is this something that just came to my mind? Is this something that, for example, someone who's suffering from dementia, would this be something that to preserve who they are for posterity, for them or for their family? I know for their family who's not suffering from dementia, but I know people who it's the dementia for them, for their family member is accelerating to the point where they don't remember anything and they're wandering and things like that. How could something like this help people with dementia?
Yeah, so I've actually thought about this, but before I say anything, let me add the disclaimer that dementia is not my main area of expertise.
Okay.
But I do foresee two main use cases. So one is that for the patient themselves, so maybe help them remember details of their lives. Um, that opens up another issue regarding, well, how should these systems be governed from an AI governance perspective? Because if that person who is actually alive with dementia, if they're using a model as their living surrogate, then what happens if if the model is biased or if somebody tries to edit it? It's like almost equivalent to performing brain surgery. I'm just using that metaphor loosely. The other use case is that that model can be used to engage them, and also their loved ones. And let's say after that person is no longer there, or if not, they're not recognizable, at least preserve some aspects of their lives.
So, but well, then that goes to the heart of my discomfort. Like, so living human surrogates come with their own emotional issues and baggage, and the culture and the religious belief and everything. Where I can see an LLM much more objective based on what's being fed at the same time as a critical care physician. I don't know. When he said when he told me, my friend Eamon, what if you have an LLM chatbot or an AI chatbot version of yourself making end of life decisions? I recoiled because I mean, with all the mistakes that AI makes and all of the hallucinations that it makes, and even in the tools of editing software that I make, for this podcast, the AI tool sometimes makes mistakes, or sometimes even my AI scribe that I use now that I love, and it's like it's been a game changer for me in my clinical workflow, still does things that I don't like, right? And I have to keep training it to do it the way I want it, or I just fix it the way I want it, right? When you're going to a chatbot that's going to make end of life decisions, that really made me uncomfortable. I want you to speak more about that.
So I think there are a couple of things that we need to disambiguate. So one is that we should not say that the AI is making end-of-life decisions. It's giving suggestions to help the surrogates or the physicians, or let's say the care team as a whole, uh, make decisions. So think of this as just adding another data point. The second thing I would say is that we should also think in terms of baselines. So there have been studies which reveal that for human surrogates, the level of accuracy that we get is 70%. And that comes with the disclaimer that that's based off of people who actually recovered after the fact. So there's some sort of censoring going in the data, which is that people who passed away, we cannot really ask them what their decision could have been, but at least for the ones that who survived. So if we are able to build models which are at least at the statistical level better than humans, so let's, in a hypothetical scenario, if we get an AI model which has accuracy of, let's say, 85%, which is higher than the human baseline 70%. So this is a territory where we can then start thinking about, all right, maybe perhaps these models would be useful. And there are other studies which have shown that for certain types of patients, so like earlier we were talking about dementia patients, it's been revealed that for putting dementia patients on ventilators, human surrogates are just barely better than random. So again, the same line of argument can be applied that could we build AI machine learning models which are significantly better?
But then, so but sometimes, for example, you're in theory, where does it have for patients to change their minds? So someone in theory says, yeah, I want everything done. I want to be resuscitated. I want to go on a ventilator. I want vasopressors. I want to be aggressively treated. Then once I come and I slap the non-invasive on their face, and I put a central line in their neck, and I put a chest tube in their chest, they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa! I didn't know any of this, right? And if the AI tool beforehand feeds it in, where is the room for changing, or really they didn't know what they meant when they fed it? Where does that come in?
That is an excellent point, and there are aspects of human experiences which, at least at the current point in time, or maybe I would say for the foreseeable future, we are not able to capture. So that is going to be a limitation. So I do acknowledge that. Another classical example, which is used in the surrogates literature. So now I'm not no longer just talking about AI surrogates, but surrogates in general. Uh, what, is that people also change their minds. So let's say if somebody has a even they may have a directive, but while they're going through that process, as you rightfully described, they may change their mind. In those cases, then if that person is all of a sudden incapacitated, then um, should we go with the directive or should we go with that person was experiencing at that time?
Yeah. Like, I mean, then that's where, I mean, there's just so much complexity in the entire scenario and the entire situation. And there's and then where does, how do you feed in religious belief, cultural context, where, um, uh, you, like, I don't know, like, what if they're Jehovah's Witnesses, and who traditionally don't want blood transfusions, for example, or other kind of things, or or kids, children, right? And I mean, there's just so many things where I don't, I'm all about using a medical LLM to help me be a better diagnostician, and then I just pause and think about really hard. And when it gets to this very dicey situation about surrogacy, what are your thoughts about that?
That is another excellent point. So this is where the idea of fine-tuning these models for individuals, for groups, that becomes extremely important. And not just in the case of surrogacy, but large language models in general, that they have to reflect the values and the experiences of that person, especially in these high-stakes use cases. Like another example that comes to mind from the surrogates literature is that more recently, ethicists have started talking about honoring a person's character, or that is their authentic self versus their words. So let's say if a person's they had a directive 5 years ago that resuscitate no matter what the conditions are, versus you as let's say you are the human surrogate that they have, and you know that authentic, they're kind of person who does not like to rely on anybody else. They are very independent and minded. Then that clashes with what they have stated, where that's not really their character. So there are some ethicists who say that, well, in those circumstances, we should actually go with the honoring that person's character, their authentic self.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. If somebody 5 years ago says, yeah, full code no matter what, but their spouse who just talked to them last week and said, no, he told me or she told me I would never want to live on a machine, or has got a and they just haven't updated the paperwork. They got cancer and they haven't updated the paperwork. I would much rather, yeah, I would definitely follow the surrogate or the spouse, um, who said, I know this is what he, for it's a male, I know that he wrote full code or do everything. We just spoke about this last week, and I have no reason to doubt her. But I don't know her, right? Like maybe I should doubt. I don't know, but typically I don't have reason to doubt her, and I would follow her directive, right? Or I mean, right, am I wrong there? Or what if she hates him? And we don't know that, and she's coming off as so sweet and sincere, where actually she can't stand his guts and wants the insurance money.
Yeah, I mean these are extremely complex scenarios. So I think for decision making, so let's say even if we were to build a model which is accurate 90% of the time, um, my recommendation would be that we should still have human in the loop or humans in the loop, because adding all sorts of context, we just don't. If I were to be very blunt about technology, we just don't have the technology to do that right now, or maybe we won't have that even 50 years from now.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. So, where what if the human surrogate or the humans and the humans around the large language model disagree, and and the person was say they put in they trained their AI surrogate or their AI self, don't listen to my family no matter what, they're going to do this, which sometimes, I had a friend who came to me and said, I'm thinking about making you my surrogate because I think my family won't honor my wishes out of emotion. What happens if the AI disagrees with, based on what it was trained on, disagrees with the family? What happens there?
Uh, Now that becomes less of a technical question, I would say, and more of an ethical question.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, I would add a few guidelines around that. So one is that one limitation of large language models we have currently is that there have been experiments where you ask the LLM the same question or almost the same question, but you phrase it differently, and it would give you a different answer. So uh, last week I was at an AI conference, NeurIPS, and there were papers which talked about how to jailbreak LLMs. So, for
Wow.
example, it can be as simple as you ask the same question, but you use non-standard phrases. You use poetry, for example, and you can get it to answer things which it otherwise would not answer. Um, so coming back to the question itself, so I think the same queries should be asked to that LLM in multiple ways just to see that if it's robust. If it changes changes its answer radically, then maybe the model is not very reliable.
I see. And it seems that this realm or this sphere of AI in healthcare is still and I'm so happy that you're there doing this research and at the forefront. Do you think it's still in its infancy? There's so much more to be done before this can be deployed in real life, you think?
So if you're talking about this particular use case, given the stakes involved and the amount of testing which is required, so um, before it could be deployed, I would imagine it would require a lot of rigorous testing on retrospective data. So we build these models, and then we see that, let's say, over the last 10 years, um, these were the decisions or recommendations of human surrogates, and this is what that particular person, when they survived, this is what their decisions were. So we compare that with what the AI would have predicted. So that kind of rigorous testing, and then after that, like the examples that I gave around just rigorously testing, asking it the same question in different ways to ensure that it's robust. And then there's the IRB process and collecting the very detailed data from patients. So I would say at the very minimum, this would be a decade away.
A decade away. Okay. And so where's your wrapping up here? Where's kind of your future focus on research in this and any other space with respect to your work?
So with respect to this particular space, so we are right now in the middle of just conceptualizing this problem. So there's the question of what kind of data that we can potentially use. So I described retrospective data, but that's limited in terms of the kind of information we can collect. And we are trying to figure out, in addition to, let's say, your standard healthcare data, which you can get from EHR, from vitals and whatnot, can be augmented by, let's say, your other types of footprints that you leave on the internet. The one limitation that I should acknowledge is that what you leave behind on social media, that's really your authentic self. So that data is biased to begin with. I would, like what we have discussed is in our group, is that if you have detailed information regarding conversations with physicians or conversations that let's say, which are specifically crafted for different type of scenarios that you are likely to encounter. So just collecting that type of data, just mapping the requirements for ensuring that these models are not biased. So I have a preprint that I wrote a couple of months ago. Also looking at how to make these models robust. So what I described, the problem is that asking the LLM the same question in different scenarios, in different contexts, and determining whether certain phraseology actually results in the shift in answers.
And then, do you think ambient scribe data can be scraped as more and more EHRs have ambient scribes to help the clinician document the note? Say I have an ambient scribe and I'm talking to, whether in the hospital or in the office, talking about end of life. What are your goals of care? And some scribes, they don't hold the data, but do other scribes keep the data? Is that a source of like an input for the information?
Yes, most certainly. And I would say one use case which is that AI can be used in this domain, and we may not have to wait for 10 years for that, is that so a lot of people do not have a prime directive or is designated surrogate. What AI does is that, or enables, is reduce the barrier to entry. So if these scribes, if they can be used to facilitate that conversation, or let's say make it frictionless to create these prime directives. And let's say if the models that we have been discussing, if let's say even if they are not deployed in the next 50 years or so, but at the very, very minimum, if we are able to just get the people to have these prime directives, I would still consider that to be a great win for AI in this domain.
Oh, absolutely. And maybe you can even draft it based on the state law or the state form, and then have it ready for you to sign, is to be like a medical power of attorney or an advanced directive or a POFT form that it can prompt you to fill out. And if you then it can just have it ready to print or to upload into the record, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. That's actually fantastic. So, Dr. Ahmed, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. I'm so happy that you're at the forefront of this space. I think it's very fascinating, and I'm glad it's a little bit far away.
Yep.
I don't know that I would feel comfortable someone showing me Claude and saying, well, the Claude says my dad wants to do everything, or Claude says my dad wants to be DNR. I don't know that I would be happy either way. And still, I think this is a fascinating area of future research. And I want to thank you for your time today, and thank you for all the research that you're doing in this space.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. Sign up at healthcaremusings.com to get every episode delivered directly to your email. And please don't forget to leave a 5-star review. Thank you so much.